In December 2017, two plumbers were called to a quiet neighbourhood in Ontario, Canada, to fix a blocked drain. They expected it to be a normal, easy job, something they could fix quickly using their drain snake. A drain snake is a long, flexible wire with a corkscrew end designed to clear blockages. Usually, when a drain is blocked, it doesn't take long to clear it, and the plumbers thought they would be done in an hour. However, after they started using the drain snake to clear the blockage, they started pulling out strange, gruesome material. It looked like flesh or meat, and the plumbers had no idea what it was. As they pulled more of this material out, they realised it wasn't just a simple blockage. They had discovered something much more sinister. The plumbers continued to pull out this strange material for several days. The neighbours in this area started to get worried because the job was taking so long. They wanted the problem to be fixed quickly, but when the plumbers discovered what was really in the pipes, things took a very dark turn. What they found was evidence of terrible crime, a murder. The body parts they were pulling out had clearly been flushed down the toilet. This horrifying discovery quickly led to the police being called in the area. The neighbourhood was turned into a crime scene as investigators began to look into what had happened.
Communications.
I'm a plumber and I'm on site for a job, and we're snaking a drain, and we've been pulling back. We probably pulled back about 10 pounds, 15 pounds of it looks like flesh type of stuff, meat, and we don't know what it is.
The plumbers had unknowingly uncovered the aftermath of a grisly murder, and the police were now investigating the situation. This is where the story of Adam Strong begins. But before getting to that, let's take a look at the life of Rori Hache, the victim involved in this tragic story. Rori Hache was born in July 1999 in Oshawa, a quiet suburb in Ontario. She was a bright and lively child who loved animals and enjoyed spending time with older people. Outside of school, Rori Hache was an army cadet, and by the age of 13 she had been named Cadet of the Year twice. However, when Rori Hache entered high school, things started to take a darker turn. At the age of 14, she was introduced to crystal meth, a powerful and addictive drug. She began using it, and this marked the beginning of a long struggle with addiction. Rori Hache came from a troubled background. Her grandfather, Bernie Gwindon, also known as Bernie the Frog, was the founder of a notorious motorcycle club called Satan's Choice. This was one of the largest biker gangs in the world. Bernie had a criminal history that included drug convictions and assault charges, and he had spent 22 years in prison. He also had many children, somewhere between 11 and 16. One of his sons was Rori Hache's uncle, Harley Davidson Gwindon, who owned a clothing store in Oshawa. Harley was a member of the Hells Angels, a famous outlaw motorcycle club. He also had a criminal record, including drug offences. Despite his tough appearance, Harley had a soft spot for his niece, Rori Hache. In 2016, when Rori Hache was 17, she lived with Harley and his family while he was under house arrest for drug charges. Rori Hache's mother, Shannon Dion, had struggled with how to help her daughter. She eventually reported herself to the Children's Aid Society, hoping they could help Rori Hache in her addiction. Unfortunately, the services didn't provide the support Rori Hache needed. However, Rori Hache did eventually turn her life around on her own. For the last 6 months of her life, things were looking better. She had a boyfriend named Tony and even had her own apartment. Harley had recently given her mother and herself $1,000 to help with living expenses. However, Rori Hache, Harley's mother, had found a job and decided to go back to school. Things seemed to be improving for them in August 2017. At that time, Rori Hache's aunt, Michelle Gwindon, took her to a drugstore to buy a pregnancy test. The test result came back positive. Rori Hache was pregnant. She was excited about becoming a mother and looked forward to the new chapter in her life. However, at the end of August 2017, things took a tragic turn. On August 10th, a fire broke out in Rori Hache's mother's house under unclear circumstances. The fire injured Shannon, Rori Hache's mother, and tragically killed her dog. This event seemed to set off a series of bad things in Rori Hache's life. Around this time, Rori Hache had been going to a youth centre called The Refuge, where she had been receiving help. The workers at the centre noticed that Rori Hache had recently started using drugs again, and by the end of August, they said she was improving. A few days before the end of the month, Harley met with Rori Hache and noticed she was acting differently. Rori Hache seemed secretive and didn't want to talk about what was going on in her life. When they hugged, it was the most emotional and tight hug Harley had ever received, feeling like a final goodbye. The hug left Harley with a sense that something was terribly wrong. On August 29th, 2017, Rori Hache's friend and the friend's mother took her to the hospital. While we don't know exactly why she went, it is believed that Rori Hache had some kind of mental breakdown. CCTV footage shows them sitting in the waiting room, but shortly after, Rori Hache's friend and her mother left the hospital, leaving Rori Hache behind. Rori Hache stayed in the waiting room for about 15 minutes, but then left before she could see a doctor. The footage shows Rori Hache walking out of the hospital alone. This was the last time anyone saw Rori Hache alive. When Rori Hache didn't show up at the refuge for a few days, her friends and counsellor became concerned. They, along with her family, began searching for her. Some people thought she might have run away or gone back to old habits, but her close family friends were sure she wouldn't do that, especially since she was pregnant and in a stable relationship. They knew something was very wrong. Then on September 11th, 2017, her story took a shocking and horrifying turn. That evening, a grandfather and his 11-year-old grandson were fishing in Oshawa Harbour. While fishing, they noticed something unusual floating in the water. At first, they thought it was trash, so they tried to hook it with their fishing lines to clean up the lake. After about half an hour, they managed to pull it close enough to use a net and bring it onto the pier. At first, they thought it might be some kind of animal, possibly a chicken. However, as they got a closer look, they realised that what they had pulled from the water was much worse. The grandfather then said, "I think that's a body." What they had found was a female torso. When the police arrived, they noticed signs of trauma on the body, which indicated that the torso had been deliberately severed from the rest of the body. It was clear that someone had murdered a woman and dumped her body in the lake.
Somebody killed a woman and dumped her remains. We are live over the Oshawa Harbor. Good evening. The busy spot along the waterfront is now a disturbing crime scene.
The discovery made by a fisherman and his grandson. They saw a torso in the water.
Lots of questions tonight, very few answers. Who was this woman? Where did she come from? Who wanted her dead?
This discovery was a disturbing and tragic event, and the area around the Oshawa Harbour was turned into a crime scene. The police took the torso to be examined and identified.
We would probably reach out to other services to see if there are any unsolved missing person investigations.
They started looking into missing persons cases to see if they could match the torso to anyone who had been reported missing. However, the large area of Lake Ontario made it difficult to determine where the body had come from, and they couldn't rule out the possibility that the torso had been brought to Oshawa from somewhere else. The missing pelvis made it even harder to identify the victim, and the condition of the body also made it difficult to tell if the woman had been pregnant. It wasn't until November 10th, almost 2 months later, that the police were able to compare the torso's DNA with existing records in an effort to identify the woman. Rori Hache's family had given DNA samples to the police, and when they tested it, they confirmed that the severed torso found in the lake belonged to Rori Hache. What had started as a missing persons case had now turned into a murder investigation. The police were shocked and horrified. They wondered how Rori Hache's torso had ended up in the lake, who had killed her, and most chilling of all, where the rest of her body was. There were no clues to point to the killer, and the lake had washed away any possible evidence. Rori Hache's final movements were a mystery. The police didn't know how long her torso had been in the lake, or how long she had been alive after leaving the hospital. They had no answers about who she had met or what had happened to her. For now, the police didn't know, and Rori Hache's family anxiously waited for more information. Then on December 28, 2017, the police got a call from a grim discovery from a plumber in Oshawa. The plumber had been called to fix a blockage in the pipes of an upstairs apartment. The blockage had lasted for days, and the man who lived in the basement, Adam Strong, had been unable to fix it. He had even asked the neighbours upstairs to lend him a plumbing tool to help clear it. Adam Strong told them the blockage was caused by an inflated condom, but when the plumbers arrived, they found something much worse. The plumbers knocked on Adam Strong's door, and when they entered the basement apartment, a terrible smell filled the air. Adam Strong seemed nervous and mentioned how bad the drains were. As the plumbers began working on the pipes, they found something horrifying. They discovered what appeared to be human flesh coming from the drains. The plumbers were shocked and disgusted. They realised they had spent hours in contact with this man, and now they were uncovering a crime. The police were quickly called, And when they arrived, Adam Strong didn't try to hide the truth. He immediately said, "The jig's up. It's a body." They arrested him right away. While in the police car, Adam Strong continued to talk. He said, "If you want the rest of her, she's in my freezer, and she's pretty disfleshed." The police were horrified, and when they opened the freezer, they found several severed body parts. Among them was a human head, and it had a tattoo on the neck that read "Alive," the same tattoo that Rori Hache had. The body parts in the freezer were confirmed to be Rori Hache's. An autopsy of Rori Hache's remains showed that she had suffered serious injuries, including multiple facial fractures. The exact cause of death wasn't clear, but it was suggested that she might have been strangled or killed by blunt force trauma. There were drugs in her system, but the amount was impossible to determine. It was clear, though, that she had died in a brutal attack. While being questioned, Adam Strong had spoken freely about the body parts found on his property. The police went back to his apartment to look for more evidence. The apartment was filthy and cluttered. They found several restraining devices, adult toys and weapons, including a hammer. On the hammer, they found Rori Hache's DNA. They also discovered Rori Hache's running shoes in a plastic bag, and the shoes had what looked like blood on them. There were also bloodstains on the wall and baseboards leading to Adam Strong's bedroom. Adam Strong's online search history showed his disturbing interest in extreme violence, death and gore. This obsession wasn't just online. It had started affecting his real life in very dangerous ways. Authorities discovered a bomb he had made, an undetonated pipe bomb. The bomb squad had to be called to safely detonate it. The controlled explosion took place in the heart of a neighbourhood after a suspicious death had been reported, sparking an investigation by Durham Regional Police.
Tear it down. That's the message the family of slain teen Rori Hache has for the city of Oshawa regarding this home here on McMillan Drive. This building now a terrible reminder of the young woman's gruesome death.
The police also found a specialty hunting knife in Adam Strong's drawer, the kind typically used for cutting and skinning animals. This knife seemed to be connected to the dismemberment of a woman named Rori Hache. When they checked the knife for Rori Hache's DNA, they found something shocking. It contained DNA from another victim. This second victim was 19-year-old Kandis Fitzpatrick, who had gone missing nearly 10 years before. Kandis Fitzpatrick was born in 1989, and not much was known about her, but her story was eerily similar to Rori Hache's. Like Rori Hache, Kandis Fitzpatrick had been on the streets in Oshawa and had struggled with a drug problem. However, she also had a loving family, just like Rori Hache. Her family had been searching for her ever since she went missing in March 2008, when she was just 18 years old. Her family had reported her missing, but despite their efforts, she remained lost. It wasn't until 2010 that Kandis Fitzpatrick was identified as a missing person by the Durham Regional Police.
A missing female at the time was identified as Kandis Fitzpatrick from the Oshawa area. Family had reported to the DRPS in 2010 concerns of her not having been seen since 2008, and she was 18 years old at the time.
I felt right from the get-go that this was a seasoned person that has done this before, because my daughter was tough. She was very tough, and she would not have been an easy catch for anybody to handle, you know what I mean? So I knew he knew what he was doing.
Kandis Fitzpatrick's mother believed her daughter was tough and wouldn't have easily been taken by anyone. She was convinced that whoever was responsible for her disappearance was someone experienced, who knew exactly what they were doing. Now, with the discovery of Kandis Fitzpatrick's DNA on the knife, the police had a clue as to what had happened to her, but there was still no sign of her body. This revelation sent them back to investigate Adam Strong more closely. Initially, Adam Strong was focused on talking about Rori Hache and seemed cold and indifferent about her death. He openly discussed how he had started dismembering her body on Christmas Eve in 2017, when he knew the neighbours would be away. He explained that he had waited for her body to defrost completely before beginning the gruesome work.
The 24th is when you start this. You said Christmas Eve? Yes. Are you doing this while it's frozen, or partially defrosted? Completely defrosted. Okay.
At that point, Adam Strong had already been charged with committing indignity to a dead body, a lesser charge, and he thought as long as the police focused on the practicalities of what he did after Rori Hache had died, he wouldn't be charged with anything more serious. But the more he spoke to detectives, the more he revealed, which gave the police the opportunity to gather more evidence. His detailed confessions allowed the detectives to press him further, which ultimately helped the judge understand what Adam Strong had likely done to Rori Hache while she was still alive. Adam Strong did not directly confess to killing Rori Hache or Kandis. However, he did admit to knowing Rori Hache and said that they had dinner together and that she visited his apartment several times. He also confessed that after Rori Hache died, he cut up her body. He was surprised when her torso was found in a lake, thinking that it shouldn't have floated. He explained that it took him several months to dispose of her body parts, and he blamed it on procrastination. He even admitted that he should have gotten rid of a knife with Kandis Fitzpatrick's DNA on it earlier, which might have prevented him from being caught. Adam Strong also admitted knowing Kandis Fitzpatrick, and this, along with the DNA evidence, was enough for the police to charge him with both murders. In November 2018, 1 year after Rori Hache's body was found, Adam Strong was charged with murder. The prosecutors focused on him even though they didn't have a confession, and Adam Strong became their main suspect. Born in 1972, Adam Strong was 45 years old when Rori Hache's remains were discovered. He worked as a gas station attendant and sometimes worked as a security guard on film sets. Although not much was known about his early life, he claimed to have had a bad childhood, which he said affected his behaviour. Adam Strong also had a history of troubled relationships with women. 2 women testified against him in court, saying that when they were in relationships with him over 20 years ago, he enjoyed bondage and choking. One woman said it was consensual, but the other woman said it scared her and made her feel unsafe. This history helped paint a picture of Adam Strong as an aggressive and dangerous person. The defense team suggested that perhaps Rori Hache and Kandis Fitzpatrick had died from overdoses and that Adam Strong panicked, disposing of their bodies to avoid being blamed. However, Rori Hache's injuries, particularly to her head, suggested something much worse. Throughout the trial, Adam Strong tried to delay proceedings. The trial was slowed down due to the pandemic, with some hearings taking place via video, and at times, Adam Strong refused to attend. At one point, he complained to his lawyer, saying he was too tired to meet and just wanted to go to bed. His attitude angered the court, and on March 16, 2021, after many delays, he was found guilty of first-degree murder for killing Rori Hache and manslaughter for Kandis Fitzpatrick's death. This was remarkable because there was no confession for either murder, and Kandis Fitzpatrick's body had not been found yet. But Adam Strong's confession about dismembering the bodies and the DNA evidence were enough to convict him. His sentence for the murder of Rori Hache was an automatic life sentence. In July 2021, Adam Strong finally admitted to a prison guard where Kandis Fitzpatrick's body was buried. The police took him to a spot in Oshawa where he indicated where he had buried her. Her remains were recovered, giving her family the closure they had been desperately seeking. A local person who had known the area for years expressed shock and sadness over the tragedy. People in the community were deeply affected, and they could not believe that something so terrible could happen so close to their home. Adam Strong's family and his actions had caused pain to many, and even though he refused to take responsibility, others saw his guilt. His crime was especially dangerous for him, as he had killed someone connected to notorious biker gangs, including the founder of Satan's Choice Motorcycle Club. Bikers on the inside of the prison were expected to seek revenge, and as one convict said, "You can't kill the granddaughter of someone connected to the Hells Angels and get away with it." We still don't know exactly how Adam Strong met Rori Hache and Kandis Fitzpatrick, or why he killed them. Prosecutors believe that these were crimes of opportunity, where Adam Strong just happened to encounter Kandis Fitzpatrick and Rori Hache, kidnapped them, then murdered them. What's more disturbing is that there was a long gap, about 10 years between the 2 murders, raising the question of whether he might have committed other crimes during this time. What do you think about this chilling story? How could Adam Strong's crimes remain hidden for so long?